So what's this? Is this a basement?
That's a basement. You want to go down there?
Yeah, I do.
Come on. You Florida girl. You ain't never been in the basement, have you?
Yeah. Is it safe?
Oh yeah, of course.
So how many basements? Is it just one?
It's two sides actually.
Ooh. So we're just going to walk down?
Yeah, come on.
So what would this primarily be used for?
So this is typically right in geographically in parts of the country where they have basements. It's typically is where your utilities would be, your mechanicals.
Okay.
So you got your main service panel over there. This is our main water supply right here. Will be. So this was another cost overrun. Okay. They had to dig this up. We had to redo the copper pipe because the one up under the ground was no good anymore. Okay. And we got to make what's called a template for them to come and install the water meter, them being the water company. And then we got to make a manifold over here for the distribution. So we'll have the distribution coming up here and running across. We'll feed it all the way across to the other side. And then that's where it'll connect and go into all the units. So everything is already plumbed. The rough plumbing is ran in all the units, but now we got to tie it in all the way back to the meter.
Nice. Now, how do you plan for something like that, right? Because this is something you might not, I mean, of course you wouldn't necessarily see on your inspection. Are you allocating a certain amount of funds for, things like this that can pop up?
Yeah, so typically you will run like an 8 to 10% variance. Okay. But in today's situation, with not even the cost of goods going up no more, like that's less our issue because the import-export has gotten a lot better. Yeah. Than it was 12, 18 months ago.
For sure.
But the bigger issue is just that dependability of people and the lack of good people. And the good people are busy. So when you factor in that time is better to, and you may have to pay a little bit more for the right person. Mm-hmm. So it's better to run more like 15%, maybe even 20% sometimes in terms of your variance. Wow. Okay. So you plan for some of it. You can't absorb all of it. You never will. That rough plumbing issue, we couldn't have planned for that. Right. We wouldn't have planned that that some of the plumbing behind the walls would not be connected. Right. Because who in their right mind would put plumbing in the wall, not connect it, and then drywall it and paint it? Yeah. That's what I mean. How much more work did it take to just actually hook it up the right way? Yeah. So you sending this owner who probably somewhere else pictures, and it's a drag. But anyway.
Now, when you say 20%, is that 20% of the overall?
Yeah, so if it's 200 grand, you put another 40 on there. Okay. And then there's the tug and pull of, do the numbers still make sense if I do that? Mm-hmm. So then you got to play with that, you know what I'm saying? And yeah. But I can tell you this, I can stand on this. Whatever the rehab needs to be is what it needs to be. If the deal don't work or the return for the investor is not as sexy, you got to give them that data and let them make that call. Because it may not be as sexy up front, but over time it will improve because rents are going to continue to go up, property value continue to go up. So don't be afraid to make the right presentation if that's what you really believe in your heart that this should be. Mm. And when I say believe in your heart, backed by data, obviously.
Right, of course.
You know what I'm saying? Not just that I'm scared and I want to put an extra 100,000 on the rehab. Like that's not good business. Yeah. But if you really think that's the most prudent thing to do to protect you and your investors. Because the other part is, if you don't do that and you come in skimp, you still got to go ask them for more money anyway. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to do a cash call. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So it's important because you rather just get it in up front, they stomach whatever the initial investment is, and then be done with it. You know what I mean? Not to say you shouldn't go back for a cash call. There will be times where you have to, but at least it should be less. Right. You're not going back for nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because you already kind of planned properly for it. Right.
Now, would you store anything down here, or would you literally just leave it only for the?
No, we gonna do what's called Detroit basement. So we glass block the window, paint the walls white, spray the ceilings black, and actually we wouldn't even, because this won't even be like livable space. So we'll just kind of clean up the floors and call it a day. Normally, if it was in like a single family home that we were flipping, we put like a gray paint on the floor with maybe some sparkles in it but that'd be like this finished as the basement is. Gotcha. You know what I mean? It's what's understood don't need to be explained. Yeah. It's one of them situations. Okay. So, I mean, we bought units where there's been like these cages in the basement that people could use for storage. I just don't like that because, the probability of issues and the liability, right? people go down there, the kids, you know, it's
stuff.
stealing. You know,
Yeah,
you gotta know where you at.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You gotta know where you at.
That's good.
I'm telling you, like 90% of the game is psychological in its relationships and it's the intangibles. 10% is the X's and O's. We get knowledge from going forward. We get wisdom from looking backward. I got 16 years of going through all these rigmaroles, and there's new challenges. Certainly, they just look different in new seasons.
Yeah. To me, it's like, so to me, it's a lot of unused space. You know?
Is.
You know what I mean? Like the way they build these properties.
Sometimes we put units in the basement.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not uncommon for this, if somebody, if they wanted to fix it to something where, I mean, and people are comfortable living on, like, I mean, I'm a Florida girl, so you know this. For me, the whole time, I just keep hearing somebody stomp.
You about to say something, and then I'm gonna have to take your card, and
everybody
gonna get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, depending on the application, yeah. I mean, you could drywall, frame out drywall, put heat.
You know, I ain't used to seeing it. So.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So let's say right now, right, we have 16 units.
Okay.
So it's like property management, is that in place? Do they quarterly check knowing that it is subsidized? I do know that now in Florida, that's primarily where, of course, I've done all my investments. They've changed the structure in the way people who are on Section 8, they have to also, like you have a standard as the owner, but then the tenants have a standard too.
For sure.
So is it similar? Because before it used to be
wide open.
Yeah. And you know, but now, I guess you've dealt with it, of course, here in this area. What would you say?
Yeah,
Any concern?
The property management is paramount. There are standards that the property has to meet in order to get the Section 8 voucher, right? So so to even take it beyond the property management, we actually convey that. So like with Will, he'll have alignment to understand what the requirements are for Section 8 to make sure that everything is rehabbed to that standard.
Okay.
And then the property management company comes in kind of with the white glove test to make sure that all those boxes are checked. Okay. And then that way we can get the Section 8 or other subsidized tenant in here.
Very good. Now, do you normally require the property management to come like quarterly to check each unit? Is it anything like that? Like how do you know if it's, let's say a tenant is like allowing a leak to happen or something like that? Is there any like cross checks or anything like that, or is it just?
So that's a great question. A couple different things, right? If we do semi-annual, so not quarterly, we do semi-annual inspections at all the units.
Okay.
Property management company comes in semi-annually. But coupled with that, you bring up a great point. So what if there's an active leak that we weren't exposed to, right? I huddle with the property management company every month to go over our books, to go over everything that's going on. Okay. Coupled with that, I have them send me a weekly report. So in that weekly report, depending on what the expenses are, if I see them elevated, if I see unit 304, you know, utilities are at $500, whereas the other ones are at $300, then it's like, hey, we need to go check unit 304. We're pulling too much wattage over there. What's going on? If we see an elevated water bill, we can go and look for an active leak.
So then now so then now are the utilities, are they responsible for their own utilities, or does it coupled in one?
So we try to always buy units that are separately metered, that the tenant takes care of all of their utilities. Okay. Okay, water as an apartment owner, you're gonna pay the water as the owner, but the utilities, you can pass that off to the tenant. Right. Problem though is sometimes when you buy a reposition where you take over an existing building that has tenants, whether it was explicit or not, chances are they haven't been paying their own utilities. Right. They won't be when you buy it. Right. Let's just say that. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So in those cases, you know, we went through a turn on a 40 unit that we bought last year, and we literally had to, actually the 40 unit and the 20 unit, we had to literally go through, and part of the lease renewal was getting the utilities out of our name because it was killing us. Killing us. It's funny, they run it a lot higher when they're not paying for it. Yeah. It's funny how that works. Exactly. Right? So, but so you know how I teach y'all how to invest remotely without having to physically be there. Right. These are some of the cues that I hone in on. I let data tell me stories. So I don't physically have to be there. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can look at the data and all the way from Florida, call the property management company in Detroit and say, hey, y'all need to go look at unit, whatever, and like, why, what's going on? It's like, right? The data tells you the story and puts you on the trail to go and uncover the clue.
So that leads me to my next question. So how do you guys, if the utilities are in the name of the tenant, are you getting reports from the utility companies to see what each unit is doing, if they're actually paying it, or?
So I was specifically talking about the situations where we've inherited a building and we haven't turned the utilities out of our name yet. You know what I mean? So that's just an example.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just an example.
Okay.
But you could also look at if the property management company is going out to a specific unit and you start to see a lot of small maintenance repairs. It's like, what's going on with that tenant in there? What's so different about their unit than all the rest of them? You know what I mean? I'm always looking for like the outlier.
Okay.
You know what I mean? What's the catalyst to something being different?
That's good.